Victor Stazzone. By the spring of 2024, a resident of Queens, New York City, had gotten fed up with thieves constantly raiding the UPS and FedEx parcels that were left on his doorstep. Carlos Meja took matters into his own hands and devised a trap that involved leaving decoy packages outside his front door in order to catch the Porch pirates in the act. After the trap had been sprung, 36-year-old Victor Stazzone approached the residence with a backpack in hand and unwittingly attempted to steal one of the packages. Within seconds, Meja stormed out of his home armed with a baseball bat and grabbed Stazzone by the neck as he let out panicked screams. Meja asked, "What you got in there?" And in spite of being caught red-handed, the Porch pirate insisted, "This is my stuff," adding, "You can have everything, bro." Stazzone made several other poor attempts to ease his situation, which included claiming that he lived nearby and that he was taking the packages for safekeeping from thieves, all of which had no effect on the enraged homeowner. With the bat cocked behind his shoulder, Meja ordered Stazzone to his knees. A woman who'd emerged from the residence watched the altercation unfold. The Porch pirate tried to escape by climbing over a fence, but he was yanked back down by Meja, who restrained him until the arrival of law enforcement. Stazzone was face planted on the ground and screaming hysterically that he needed an ambulance when NYPD officers reached the scene. As he was being handcuffed, Stazzone shouted, "Officer, what am I being arrested for?" He was booked on charges of petty larceny, criminal possession of stolen property, and criminal trespass. Meja shared surveillance footage of the incident on TikTok where it went viral. The homeowner also provided photos of what the decoy package contained, which was some old French fries and a note card with a profanity-laced message for any would-be thief. He told the media that he was trying to make an example for those out there doing the same thing, stealing from others. Number 7. Malcolm Trimble. On May the 12th of 2023, Malcolm Trimble walked into a convenience store in Durham, England, clad in gloves, a face mask, and with the hood of his sweatshirt pulled over his head. 30-year-old Trimble also had a large kitchen knife concealed in the sleeve of his jacket. He picked up a 4-pack of beer and approached the counter where he brandished the knife and threatened the shopkeeper. In the moments that followed, while Trimble was busy bagging his ill-gotten gains, the worker was able to flee out of the front door. Trimble chased after him and struggled to open the door while the worker resisted the pull from outside. The latter then started lowering the shop's metal shutters. Trimble tried to get out, legs first, to avoid the descending shutters, but mistimed the slide and was pinned under their weight. His head, along with a portion of his upper chest and right arm, were trapped in the shop, while the rest of his body was in the street. With his head against the glass door and the shutters pressing down on his chest, the would-be thief was unable to escape. The shopkeeper called the authorities while Trimble, accepting the fact that he'd been caught, cracked open a beer. The entire incident was captured on CCTV, and responding officers took Trimble into custody. Detective Sergeant Paul Mawson of the Durham Constabulary told the media it wasn't the most difficult arrest we have ever made. To be honest, it was an open and shut case. Trimble subsequently admitted attempted robbery and possession of a knife. On June the 14th, he was jailed for 3 years and 4 months at Durham Crown Court. Number 6. Mini Cooper thief. On the night of March the 12th of 2018, a car thief attempted a daring escape in Morpeth, Northumberland, England. He'd stolen a Union flag-topped Mini Cooper S and, in a move reminiscent of the Italian Job heist movie, tried to flee down a stairway in Carlisle Park. The suspect, only identified as a 31-year-old male, misjudged the space available to him on the winding stairway and ended up wedged between 2 walls. He was unable to open the doors or even escape through the windows and had to be rescued by Northumbria police and the emergency services. The man was arrested for aggravated vehicle taking, and in the aftermath, plans were set in motion to extract the stranded Mini Cooper. Number 5. John Bell. 22-year-old Houston man John Bell entered the Latino Cellular at 6710 Hillcroft Avenue on April the 17th of 2017. With a pistol in hand, Bell ordered employee Katrina Leon to open the register, but the woman calmly refused, as shown in CCTV footage. Leon would later tell ABC News, "As soon as he entered and he just pointed the gun at me, and I knew instantly I'm getting robbed again, but this time I didn't open the cash register." As Bell proceeded to take items from behind the counter, Leon hustled customers out of the store and also walked out herself. She then locked the door, trapping Bell inside. Metal bars on the door and window meant that the robber had no means of egress. He fired 4 shots into the lock, kicked and slammed his body into the door, but his barrage proved futile. Bell eventually resorted to prayer. He clasped his hands and got down on his knees, saying, "I'm sorry, please, I have nothing." Through the window, he begged to be released by Leon, who was still outside, preventing customers from approaching the door. Bell's prayers went unanswered, and he was freed from the store by Houston police officers, who took him into custody. Towards the end of 2017, he pleaded guilty to aggravated robbery and was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Number 4. Brazilian jewelry thief. After he was caught trying to rob a jewelry store, a Brazilian thief was taken to a police station in Balneario Picadas, Santa Catarina, in the country's south. While inside a holding cell at the station in the winter of 2016, the unnamed criminal stripped down to his purple-colored underwear. He then tried to squeeze through a narrow food latch on his cell door. The man made it halfway out, but his hips prevented him from going further, and he became painfully trapped in the door several feet off the ground. Firefighters were called to the scene to free him. They were recorded pouring sunflower oil on the man, trying to loosen him up as he cried and screamed in pain and frustration. When the oil proved ineffective, the crew used power tools to cut the man out. Clips and photos of the incident circulated in the media, and it remained unclear what additional charges the man faced. Number 3. Brazilian purse snatcher. A Brazilian woman was left helplessly trapped following an attempt to steal a woman's purse on a bus in Campina Grande in the winter of 2017. As the unnamed criminal dashed for the exit, the driver pressed a button to close the doors. They shut just as the woman was stepping onto the pavement, trapping her left leg. Local journalist Elias Barbos recorded the woman as she dangled upside down, pleading for help from onlookers, none of whom intervened. She remained stranded for roughly 10 minutes until local police arrived to take her into custody. The woman confessed to the attempted theft, according to a spokesperson for the Delegacia Regional de Policia Civil. Many bus passengers had witnessed the incident, but given that it was reportedly the woman's first offense, she was likely to avoid a custodial sentence. Today's topic was requested by 300 Zblue. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Matthew Draper. On July the 30th of 2013, Dimitri Legakis, a resident of Cromwell Street in Swansea, Wales, was approached by 27-year-old Matthew Draper, who asked him to move his car so that he could leave in a smart roadster convertible. The vehicle belonged to Legakis' neighbor, Tanya Miles. Legakis didn't recognize Draper, and thus, before he could oblige his request, he knocked on Miles' door and asked her mother who he was. Upon learning that he was a stranger and deducing that he was trying to steal the vehicle, Legakis and other neighbors boxed Draper in the convertible and called the police. The carjacker was recorded frantically trying to escape while shouting at and threatening those keeping him trapped with a screwdriver. He tried to kick the car's window out, and when Miles arrived at the scene, spat at her, Frustrated and enraged by his predicament, Draper began vandalizing the vehicle's interior. Responding officers took him into custody and found a camera belonging to Miles in his pocket. Draper pleaded guilty to charges stemming from the incident, as well as to stealing a car CD player with an accomplice on June the 26th. His lawyer asked for leniency, noting that his criminal behavior stemmed from drug addiction, but the judge at Swansea Crown Court concluded that the substance abuse had left Draper out of control. He was given a sentence of 32 months. For those of you who don't find these criminals crazy enough, then stay tuned till after number 1 to see what happens when nut jobs go wrong. Number 1. Incident in Glendale. Shortly before noon on November the 15th of 2023, officers from the Glendale Police Department in Wisconsin located a Dodge Durango which had been reported stolen out of Plymouth, Minnesota. The vehicle was spotted on the 5400 block of Port Washington Road, and a chase ensued on I-43. Law enforcement deployed stopping sticks, but the driver of the stolen SUV swerved into oncoming traffic. In his efforts to avoid them, he crashed into a car head-on, causing it to collide with a third vehicle. The drivers of the latter two vehicles were subsequently taken to a local hospital with injuries that weren't deemed life-threatening. As shown in the footage of the incident, the Durango ricocheted off the car it had struck and sped through a grassy median before hitting a traffic barrier on the shoulder of the I-43. Moments later, the SUV's doors opened and 4 suspects scattered in different directions across multiple traffic lanes. One of them was intercepted by the police, while 2 others ran onto the Lincoln Park golf course located on the west side of the highway. While on the green, one of the fleeing criminals hid inside a bright orange porta potty. Golfers Elisa Boland and Adam Westermeyer were on the course and watched the chase unfold. Dumbfounded by the suspect's choice of a hiding spot, they tried to tell a police officer, but he opted to chase the other suspect, who'd run into the woods alongside the course's grassy lawns. In the moments that followed, Westermeyer approached the porta potty and found that the door was locked. He then pushed it over so that its door was against the ground, effectively trapping the carjacker inside. Westermeyer reportedly said to him, "Good luck, man," as he walked away. Speaking to the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, Westermeyer stated that he felt it was his duty to assist the pursuing officers, adding, "There was no thought, I just knew what the right thing was to do and I did it." Boland, who'd recorded the entrapment on her phone, quipped, "It was literally a crappy situation." What followed was captured on officers' body cams, and the footage went viral. It showed a cop approaching the porta potty and pushing it on its side, resulting in the sounds of sloshing liquid and the suspects yelling. The carjacker crawled out, saying that he got excrement on him. The officer held the perpetrator, believed to be in his teens, at gunpoint and urged him not to do anything stupid before ordering him on the ground. He complied and was arrested without incident. The other 2 carjackers remained at large as of the latest updates on the matter. On May the 21st of 2023, 20-year-old New Jersey woman Karina Armando was arrested for DWI, reckless driving, and several other motor vehicle violations. Shortly after 6 p.m., patrolman Robert Alvator from the Highlands Police Department observed the Dodge Caliber driving erratically on State Route 36. Alvator reportedly followed the car and noticed it swerving and tailgating before eventually stopping the vehicle. He found Karina Armando behind the wheel with 24-year-old Olivia Morrow in the passenger seat. Alvator asked for the driving license and car papers, which the women handed over, while Armando apologized, saying that being pulled over was an uncommon experience for her. As Alvator was checking their documents, he noticed that the women were behaving strangely. Moments later, the 2 women admitted they came from a beachfront bar called Donovan's Reef in Seabright, where they'd consumed alcohol. Armando was subjected to several field sobriety tests, smiling and laughing throughout. During the one-leg stand exam, she failed to maintain balance. During the alphabet test, she slurred the letters. Her counting was also inconsistent. during the finger dexterity test. Meanwhile, Morrow became uncooperative and downright annoying, attempting to exit the vehicle multiple times despite being told not to. Morrow frantically looked for her ID, forgetting that she had just given it to the officer. She left the scene later after being allowed to be picked up by her boyfriend. In the end, Armando was taken to the police station where she refused the breathalyzer test. She invoked her Miranda rights and didn't answer arrest-related questions. She was later released to Morrow's boyfriend as well after he signed a liability warning. 6 weeks later, Armando was arrested again for DWI. That arrest video went semi-viral because she was accused by some of trying to flirt her way out of that arrest. Number 9. Samantha Granado. An Illinois woman who was arrested in Crystal Lake on the evening of May the 8th of 2022 raised both of her middle fingers at officers in the police station. The arrest stemmed from a car ride that evening during which Samantha Granado reportedly had a heated argument with her best friend. The 30-year-old allegedly spat on her friend and struck her with a mobile phone. According to court documents, Crystal Lake police were called and responded shortly before 11 p.m. When an officer arrived at the scene near the intersection of Route 31 and Route 14, Granado gave the car keys to the officer and informed him that her friend was severely intoxicated. The officer returned the car keys to the driver, believing that she wasn't at fault. The driver was then allowed to go, but Granado was detained due to her involvement in the altercation. The officer told the woman that the only one who was intoxicated was her. She began shouting and arguing with the officer, refusing to follow any of his instructions. As the officer placed her in the police car, Granado continued her belligerence and threatened to sue the officer. She also told the officer that he was in trouble, claiming she had connections with the sheriff. As her behavior escalated, more officers arrived at the scene and assisted in her arrest. According to a criminal complaint, Granado caused bodily harm to an officer while resisting arrest. Apparently, she dug her nail into his hand, causing a red mark and indentation. The complaint further stated that she kicked another officer in the right leg, causing a red mark. From the scene all the way to the Crystal Lake Police Department, she continued berating the police. Granado was ultimately charged with battery and 2 counts of resisting a peace officer, causing injury. A judge ordered her to be held in the McHenry County Jail on a $31,000 bond. Number 8. Sequoia Duncan cell. On the evening of July the 25th of 2023, a naked woman was arrested after she reportedly fired shots on I-80 near the Bay Bridge Toll Plaza in Oakland, California. According to California Highway Patrol, someone called 911 shortly before 5 p.m. stating a reckless driver was brandishing a gun. The woman had also stopped her car and had gotten out to yell at drivers while holding a knife. She then drove off again and stopped once more, again getting out of the vehicle, but this time she was naked and holding a gun. She subsequently opened fire multiple times. When officers arrived, she dropped the gun and was taken into custody for medical evaluations. Apparently, the incident briefly shut down all eastbound lanes of I-80 near the toll plaza, and no injuries were reported. The suspect was identified as 32-year-old Sequoia Duncan from Sacramento. Duncan was facing several charges, including shooting at an occupied vehicle, making criminal threats, assault with a semi-automatic firearm, and reckless driving, among others. As of the latest updates, she pleaded not guilty during her arraignment on August the 1st of 2023. Number 7. Taylor Toranto. When 37-year-old Taylor Toranto was arrested on June the 29th of 2023, he had 2 guns and 400 rounds of ammunition with him. According to NBC News, Toranto was a rioter during the U.S. Capitol attack on January the 6th of 2021. He was positively identified in August of 2021 after a facial recognition search of images at the Capitol showed photos of him posing with a cardboard cutout of former President Donald Trump. Prosecutors said that he was arrested after he showed up in the Colorama neighborhood of Washington, D.C. on the same day that former President Donald Trump posted on his social media platform what he claimed was Obama's home address. Toranto was facing 4 misdemeanor charges in connection with the Capitol attack, but the prosecutors stated that more charges could be on the way. The prosecutors detailed a litany of alleged examples of Toranto's erratic behavior before his arrest, including making threatening statements about House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, and claims on his YouTube livestream that he intended to blow up the National Institute of Standards and Technology in suburban Maryland. During a detention hearing on July the 5th of 2023, Toranto's lawyer told the judge that the defendant was a Navy veteran who'd experienced significant trauma from serving in Iraq. However, the judge agreed with federal prosecutors that Toranto represented a danger to the community. If he was released, he was ordered to remain in jail while awaiting trial. Number 6. Edward C. Saman. The Naperville Police Department in Illinois released footage that showed a man attacking an officer with a hatchet on June the 3rd of 2022. At approximately 11 a.m., Officer Frank Tonkovich reportedly pulled over a black Honda Civic for ignoring a stop sign at eastbound McDowell Road and Bond Street. Tonkovich, who was driving a marked Naperville Police Squad car, positioned his vehicle behind the Honda and conducted a traffic stop. The footage revealed that at approximately 11:11 a.m., while Tonkovich was speaking with the driver, a silver Ford Fusion stopped in the middle of the road within a few feet from the officer. A man exited the Ford with a hatchet. According to Tonkovich, the man, later identified as 28-year-old Edward C. Saman, had a crazed look in his eyes. Tonkovich then asked him, "Who are you?" Before Saman suddenly charged at the officer, Tonkovich quickly drew his firearm and fired 6 shots, hitting the man 5 times. Saman was transported to a local hospital where he was pronounced dead. After a thorough and extensive investigation, the DuPage County State's Attorney Robert Berlin said that the shooting had been justified. Berlin added that the officer reasonably believed that Saman was trying to kill him or the subject of the traffic stop. He further stated that Tonkovich's actions were not just reasonable but necessary in order to prevent great bodily harm or death to himself or the motorist he had stopped. It never became clear what Saman's motive was. Will County court records indicated that Saman was previously charged with aggravated battery to a peace officer, aggravated battery to a victim 60 or older, and 2 misdemeanor counts of domestic battery. He'd also been ordered to stay away from his family. Number 5. Stripping at the Miami International Airport. On January the 13th of 2020, a woman wandered around a terminal before stripping down to her bra and panties in Florida's Miami International Airport. The 27-year-old was first spotted strolling past baggage claim, singing aloud while removing her navy blue bra and underwear. The Miami Herald reported the incident was caught on video, showing the woman strolling past several shocked onlookers. She was totally nude by the end of the viral video. Responding police located the naked woman at the Central Plaza parking garage exit, reportedly behaving erratically. She somehow managed to climb on top of a patrol car as it left the airport. She then leaped off the vehicle and ran through moving traffic towards another police officer standing nearby. Airport police said that the woman, who wasn't a local resident, was then taken into custody and transported to a nearby facility for mental evaluation. According to officials, it was unlikely any criminal charges would be filed because the woman appeared to be mentally ill. Number 4. Antonio DeMar Murdoch. A man allegedly chased after a police officer's unit into the gated back lot of the Hot Springs Police Department in Arkansas. According to a probable cause affidavit, Sergeant Kirk Zahner pulled into the back entrance gate of the police department, located on Malvern Avenue, shortly before 4:30 a.m. on September the 26th of 2020. Another vehicle subsequently pulled up behind Zahner's unit. As Zahner started to pull forward into the lot, a man reportedly jumped out of the car and started running toward the rear of Zahner's unit. 2 officers nearby yelled at Zahner, warning him about the approaching suspect. who continued to run at full speed as if he was attempting to attack the officer. Zayner heard the warning and sped forward to distance himself from the man. The other two officers drew their pistols and ordered the man to stop. After making it halfway through the gated back lot, the man, later identified as 31-year-old Antonio DeMar Murdoch, complied and put his hands in the air before getting on the ground. Officers said that Murdoch was speaking very erratically and claimed that someone in his car was trying to kill him. At that point, the officers detained Murdoch, checked his vehicle, and discovered there was no one inside it. Murdoch then told them that the person was inside his engine bay. The officers noted that it was quickly determined that Murdoch was delusional. They later found 15 various-sized containers of marijuana that totaled nearly 5 ounces. Murdoch admitted the substance was his and that he was unable to provide a medical marijuana card. He was then taken into custody shortly before 5 a.m. and charged with a felony count of possession of marijuana and a misdemeanor count of criminal trespass. Murdoch, who listed both Texas and Malvern addresses, was later released on a $3,000 bond. The Sentinel Record reported that the same man later drew international media attention on December the 21st of 2020 when he was arrested for forcibly opening an emergency door on a plane waiting to take off from New York's LaGuardia Airport. He and another individual were taken into custody on charges of criminal mischief and trespassing, among others. He told police that he had post-traumatic stress disorder that was purportedly triggered by the confined space in the airplane cabin. He was released without bail at an arraignment the following day. In April of 2021, Murdoch pleaded guilty to the charges from the incident. In September, he was sentenced to 4 years probation, fined $500 and ordered to pay $565 in court costs. It was unclear if he was also punished for the incident in the plane. Number 3. Mohammed Khan. 28-year-old Mohammed Khan from London, England, allegedly tried to lift the flag off the Queen's coffin in Westminster Hall on September the 16th of 2022 because he didn't believe she was dead. Khan broke from the queue, stepped off the carpet in the direction of the catafalque, and grabbed hold of the royal standard draped over the coffin. Subsequently, he was tackled by police officers. According to BBC News, Khan told one officer he wanted to see if the Queen was really dead. He was then removed from the scene and arrested. He was charged with using threatening, abusive, insulting words or behavior to cause harassment, alarm, or distress with intent. Khan was later assessed by psychiatrists as not fit to take part in legal proceedings. Judge Louisa Chiacchiora said she was satisfied that Khan was suffering from a mental disorder and should be detained in hospital care where he could be given appropriate treatment. She told him that he'd be taken to the Tower Hamlets Center for Mental Health. She added that the length of his stay in the mental health facility would depend on his treatment and doctor's advice. Number 2. Kenneth Cardiff. On the morning of November the 11th of 2021, Englishman Kenneth Cardiff reportedly killed 39-year-old John Flores because he was convinced people were trying to murder him. Cardiff had been living with Flores at the latter's apartment on Cartwright Street, near central London. Law enforcement responded to the building shortly after 6:40 a.m. after receiving a report from a resident who heard people yelling and throwing things around in Flores's unit. The London Free Press reported that officers immediately saw a lot of blood and a lot of scattered objects around the unit. They then went to the bathroom where they found Flores covered in blood with no vital signs. Meanwhile, a woman who lived in a nearby building called authorities and reported a man covered in blood who had followed her into the building. Responding officers found the man in the laundry room and identified him as Cardiff. He was arrested for trespassing and told he was being detained as a murder suspect after paramedics had confirmed Flores was dead. At police headquarters several hours later, Cardiff admitted he'd been with Flores at the apartment and that he'd been upset because his bank card was missing. He added that he began assaulting Flores and strangled him in the kitchen before dragging his body to the bathroom where he struck him with a machete. Along with his confession, he also stated that he'd thought clowns, unicorns, and children were chasing him. He claimed that he'd been in a psychosis for over a year. Cardiff pleaded guilty to manslaughter on April the 4th of 2023. Cardiff's defense lawyer said Cardiff was remorseful, and his remorse and acceptance of responsibility were due to the fact that he accepted the plea. The defendant's long-standing mental health issues would have made it a challenge for the Crown to prove intent and murder if the case had gone to trial. Court records indicated that the judge in Cardiff's case agreed to a joint submission from the prosecutor and the defense lawyer to accept the plea and sentenced him to 8 years in prison with credit for time served. Number 1. Jamshid Piros. In Crawley, England, 34-year-old Jamshid Piros attacked Sussex police officers with a hammer, leaving one officer in need of hospital treatment. Piros, a native of Afghanistan, lived and had reportedly served time in the Netherlands. He somehow had been allowed into the UK despite being a convicted murderer. According to court records, Piros arrived in Britain in December of 2015 to visit relatives, but missed his return flight from Gatwick Airport on January the 4th of 2016, after which he set off on a crime spree. He was arrested and prosecuted for assault after he spat at a member of EasyJet staff who told him he would need to buy a new ticket. During Piros' court appearance, he was ordered to pay compensation. Consequently, he went on to burgle some garages in Crawley, making off with some tools, including a hammer. On January the 7th, a witness saw Piros attempting another break-in and called authorities. Dramatic police body cam footage showed Piros being cornered by responding officers in a tool shed before he lashed out with a claw hammer. The officers tried to subdue him by discharging 2 tasers, which were not effective. Piros subsequently launched a second attack on police constable Jessica Chick. Chick's route was blocked as she tried to retreat. Piros allegedly attempted to hit her with his hammer, but she blocked the hammer with her baton. Piros turned his attention to another officer. PC Stuart Young was struck by the hammer on the neck and shoulder before his colleagues managed to restrain Piros. Piros was charged with burglary, affray, and 2 counts of attempted grievous bodily harm with intent. He later pleaded guilty to the charges. Judge Jeremy Gold jailed Piros for life in January of 2017. Gold told the convict that there was no reason for him to carry out the terrifying, violent attack. The judge also noted that Piros was potentially quite dangerous, having suffered from acute psychotic episodes. Piros was given 2 life sentences for the attempted grievous bodily harm offenses to run concurrently, for which he will serve a minimum of 5 years as well as 9 months for affray and 6 months for burglary. However, at an appeal hearing, his sentence was reduced to 3 years. The Sussex Police Federation called this deduction of his sentence highly frustrating. Thanks for watching. Would you rather get caught in a bear trap or in a pyramid scheme? Let us know in the comments section below.